Welcome to the Boardroom Sessions podcast. In these sessions, we meet the most amazing and interesting people. We learn about their passions, their business models, cool new technologies, and of course, their lessons on personal growth. I hope you enjoy. Welcome to a special mid-quarantine edition of the Boardroom Sessions podcast. I thought right about now we could all use a little advice on how to survive and how to thrive in the middle of this quarantine. I went to my networking group and my mentors and put a list together of folks and asked them the same question. What do you suggest to the listeners to get them through the podcast or the quarantine here? I have Risa Groux, Risa Groux Nutrition. She's going to tell us how to stay well and how to thrive. I talked to my buddy Dave Rhoads, Blue Street Capital, and we talk about how he's dealing with his business and ways in which he's staying positive and in motion. We talk with my good friend Jeff Harden of Ingram Micro and how he's tuned into the universe and what it's trying to tell us here. I talked to my friend Bob Groux on best practices around routines, and I talked to Kristan Sargent, who's a therapist and a consultant and a all-around awesome person. She is very well trained to give us some great advice, and she goes super deep here on how to make best use of your time. Hope you very much enjoy this podcast and look forward to hearing from you. Risa Groux, thanks for joining us on the Boardroom Sessions podcast on this special quarantine edition. Risa, you're a holistic nutritionist, and I'm a huge fan of yours. You have a big social media presence. You do a great job of getting really good recipes out there and talking about some things that we need to be talking about right now, like immunity. And so why don't you tell us on this quarantine what we can be doing to better our chances and stay healthy?
Well, thank you for having me, Mike. I always enjoy having a good chat with you. But what I'm really focusing on, and I've been just as busy as always because everybody is looking for prevention and building their immunity. We're talking a lot about washing our hands, which is great, and staying 6 feet apart from people, which is awesome. But we are not really talking about building our immunity, our defense mechanism, so that we do not get the virus in the first place. And some of the things that I think are absolutely critical for particularly is vitamin D. Vitamin D is our immunity. It's really, really, really imperative that we have good levels of vitamin D. Every lab is sort of different, but functional medicine, which is what I follow, functional medicine guidelines, we like that between 80 and 100, even higher if you have autoimmune. If you do have autoimmune,
80 and 100, 80 and 100 what?
On the test, on the lab ranges,
okay.
You want between 80 and 100.
Okay.
For your D3, for your vitamin D3.
Okay.
So, and most people, I do blood tests every single day, and I would say 99%. Even I work with professional athletes who are in the sun all day. They still have low levels, not egregiously low, but they still have a deficiency in vitamin D. So vitamin D is our immunity. It's anti-cancer. It's critical for bone health. We will not make bone without vitamin D. I don't care how much calcium you're having. It is also imperative for brain and heart and gut health, major gut rebuilder. So vitamin D is critical for everything, but it is your immunity. It is your first line of defense. Digestive enzymes. Having a very acidic stomach is also critically important for prevention because we need to have an acidic environment. As we age, we produce and excrete less and less digestive enzymes. And so a lot of people, the elderly specifically, we start to deplete that production, around. Sorry, I don't know. It's automatically unmuted, so I'm sorry.
I got you back.
Can you hear me okay?
I got you back, yes.
Okay. So as we age, we produce and excrete less digestive enzymes, and for a myriad of reasons. A, because we age, it's a natural process, and B, because we need those precursors to make our own hydrochloric acid like zinc and B6. So if you're having a very highly processed diet, a typical American diet, you're not getting those nutrients that are helping you to produce your own hydrochloric acid and pancreatic enzymes. And when we have enough digestive enzymes, we have an acidic environment. We need that to break down our food. Viruses do not typically live in an acidic environment, so it is incredibly imperative to have enough acidity in the gut. We want our tubes to be acidic, and we want our blood to be alkalized, right? We don't want metabolic acidosis, which is high levels of acid.
So what are the best ways to add acid and oxygenation? How do we do that?
Well, we need to eat foods from the earth. Processed foods are going to deplete that. You need foods that are high in zinc. Cashews have zinc. Oysters are some of the highest. Oysters and clams are the highest for zinc. And you can also take zinc. And again, zinc is imperative for immunity. So during this time, I and my family are taking zinc 1 to 2 tablets a day. And then digestive enzymes. We all take digestive enzymes. Even my 18-year-old son, I give him digestive enzymes because I want to create that acidic environment that will not host any pathogens, any viruses, any fungus, things like that. Glutathione is another one. It's hard to get to find right now. My source, I'm able to get some right now, but I wasn't for a while because glutathione is our major our master antioxidant. We all produce glutathione, very similar to a woman's ovaries or eggs. While we make eggs throughout our lifetime until menopause, we deplete. As they go out the door, they don't come back again. Same thing with glutathione. It goes out the door. We do not make it again. So it's really important to have glutathione. Glutathione is our major protector. It regulates our Treg cells and our natural killer cells. That is our immunity. So I don't want to get too technical, but it's Th1, Th2, and Th17, which is what we have when we have autoimmune. But those are our Treg cells. That's our immune system.
Okay.
So if we do not have a good immune system, then that glutathione will be depleted. Again, the professionals are talking about people who are having issues in the hospital. It's people with a lot of inflammation. It seems to be attracting the virus lives in an inflammatory state, which I always say disease does. This is no exception to the rule. So glutathione is a supplement that I'm taking every single day. Again, my family is as well, along with the digestive enzymes, vitamin D. And vitamin C is critical as well. All the webinars and all the doctors I'm speaking to and articles that I'm reading in functional medicine, they are saying a lot of countries, Korea, for instance, is able to reverse coronavirus with high levels of vitamin C.
And that's so old school. That's what moms and grandmas were telling us back in the day. You know, they were we were taking emergency, you know, when we jump on an airplane. So that's just common sense, I guess.
Exactly. And emergency is not the highest quality. It's not so bioavailable. So I would get a really good vitamin C. I've been taking that again. My kids are taking that, everybody in my family, because it does really help with immunity.
Good.
So anyone with coronavirus, I say high doses of vitamin C. You can go as high as you need to go. If you get diarrhea, then you know you've gone too far. So that's when you back it down. But yeah, Korea is really reversing it and every ICU in New York, I know they are giving them intravenous vitamin C every 3 to 4 hours if they have coronavirus.
Okay. And so that's very good advice. That's good information. So you're saying zinc, 1 to 2 tablets a day is what you're taking, having your people, your kids, your family take. Digestive enzymes, making sure you get enough vitamin D, and you're not getting enough vitamin D from the sun, right? So contrary to popular belief, it's not just about putting your face in the sun for 10 or 15 minutes a day. You need to
20 minutes of sunlight without sunglasses is great, or sun protection, but we're just still not synthesizing as much as we need to. So we're all supplementing with it.
Right. So supplementing vitamin D, and then of course vitamin C. The good old cold remedy is still in effect here. It's our best immunity booster that we can use pre and during a virus attack.
Exactly.
Okay, great. Tell me what's different in your business. So you meet with clients daily, face to face, like I do, and you have a back to back meetings with people all day long. And so what's different
Mhm.
today? How have you embraced I'll call it teleconsulting?
So, yes, it is very different, and basically, I haven't seen any patients face to face for 2 weeks now, and it's only been through phone or Zoom. And it seems to be just as effective. They're weighing themselves at home, but I'm not really as much about the weight as I am about the wellness. And we are doing a lot of talking about prevention and boosting immunity. But I've been able to work pretty seamlessly because people are still, this is a perfect time to take care of yourself and really focus on what you're eating. Most people have a little bit more time, so they are now exercising more.
Oh, yeah.
So that's amazing. This really gives us very little excuse. Of course, we can't go to the gym, but the other day I did a towel exercise with my kitchen towel in my kitchen while I was cooking. It was 5 minutes. I did it on YouTube. And so, in my house, we'll drop to the floor and somebody will say, okay, drop to the floor and do 16, and we do 16 push-ups.
Absolutely.
So we do that throughout the day. I'm playing a lot of ping pong, walking, and when I go out walking, I see tons of people walking, bicycles,
yes.
Stairs. I mean, there's really no excuse. This is a great time to take care of yourself. I'm getting plenty of phone calls from people who are getting the quarantine 15, and so you don't have to do that. Yeah. You don't have to stay home.
That's not the case at the Miller household. I'll tell you, we're exactly doing what you're doing. We have fortunately, we have a nice home office, our home gym, I should say, in the garage that we've had set up, and it's getting worked out more than ever. We've got schedules now so that we're not bumping into each other in there. And the drop and give me 20 is in effect in most rooms in the house. And I've got the office set up here that you and I are on a video conference right now talking about. I have weights and a yoga mat. This becomes my yoga studio at 4 to 5 o'clock. And I do yoga at the end of the day, balanced with a workout in the morning. So the other thing is we're going the other direction. I think we're eating healthier than we ever have because we're cooking at home. We're cooking better. And we're not eating prepackaged meals. We're making our food. And I think we're doing a great job of eating better. And so I think that's one of the big byproducts from the friends I'm talking to is that everybody seems to be getting after it workout wise. And I see more people out walking than I have ever. And I've seen families on bikes running around and doing things that I think kids can only play so much video games before they need to get out.
Exactly. Exactly. I love it. Great.
And so how about business? How's things differently for you? Are you doing anything different on social media?
Yes, actually, I am doing, yesterday I did a live class with Bar Method, and we did a group detox. I did my sugar demo on live on Instagram, which I've never done before. And we had it was very well attended. I'm doing a lot of live cooking classes. So when I'm not classes, but just live cooking demonstrations. So when I'm cooking my meals at home, I feel like I need to share with people that how possible this is and that you don't have to slave in a kitchen for 3 hours to come up with a decent meal for your family. And I'm creating, I guess, just as much as I usually am. But I am, business-wise, I think I'm more in touch with my people on social media and videos and things like that because I feel like I don't want them to feel alone.
You're working on staying connected, right? You're staying connected and you're using all the tools possible to do it.
Right. And like you, I'm so excited to hear that the Miller House is embracing this time where a lot of families are not. They're ordering in and they're just, not feeling well. And you have to remember a lot of these restaurants they use really bad oils. They use very low grade.
You call it rancid oils. Yeah, rancid.
Exactly. Rancid oils that will completely help you get more inflamed.
Yeah.
So it's a great thing. Know what products, know what foods, ingredients that you're having in your food. So I just love that you guys are doing that. But as far as business is concerned, I'm still coming into the office, but I'm not seeing any patients at all. And we're shipping out probably more product now than ever. And we're doing a lot of shipping versus people picking up, but people are still coming to pick up. We just don't see each other. We leave it in the front office. And a lot of people are detoxing. This is a great time to detox. A great
or
time
fast,
to take the alcohol
or
out
fast.
of your life.
Yep, it's a good. We're gonna do starting Monday. We're gonna do a couple of day fast. A couple of buddies of mine. It's perfect time to do
it. Love it.
Maybe a little harder because I'm in the house all the time around food. But I'm gonna do it. I quarterly fast, and I think it's a good thing. We're also this weekend. We're gonna cook your almond cookies. We're gonna bake your almond flour cookies, your chocolate chip with sea salt on top. So I've got that recipe handy, and that's right in my wheelhouse of foods that I will eat and allow myself to indulge in and get my cookie fix. So Risa, we're super grateful for you, and thanks for the time on the podcast here. People can get more information about you at RisaGrewNutrition.com.
Yes,
okay.
RisaGrewNutrition.com. And I have, all my products and collagen, and I have vitamin D and digestive enzymes. And if they want vitamin C and glutathione, they can call the office and we can get them everything they need to boost their immunity.
That's fantastic. Thanks for sharing with us. Glad you and the family are well, and we'll touch base soon. Thank you.
Likewise, Mike. Thank you.
Dave Rhoads, welcome back to the Boardroom Sessions podcast, brother.
Mikey Miller. How are you, man?
I'm good, man. Few people in the world can call me that. You can get away with that.
Hopefully everybody knows.
Hey, Dave. So you're my workout buddy. You're my goal setting buddy. You're in my accountability groups, and one of the most positive guys I know. Let's talk a little bit about this hiatus that we're all on. This collective coronavirus lockdown. What are your best practices here, and what are you telling your folks and peeps about during this quarantine?
Yeah, it's funny you said one of the most positive guys because I came home and I was proverbially kicking the dog, and my wife kind of called me out on it. She's like, "Hey, what's going on there, Mr. Positive? Things aren't so great." And so it's hard. It's hard work, and sometimes when you're off a little bit, it's easy to kind of get in that rut. So I think it's just a good reminder now more than ever is to double down on your fundamentals. And what I mean by that is the eating, the moving, the breathing, and the sleeping. I mean, those are kind of four basic things. If you're looking at them every day and saying, what's the one thing I can do in each of these categories, and not a big one, a little one, and what's the one thing I can stop doing in each of these categories. That's kind of the first stop check of, hey, what's going on right now? And again, now, a bomb's been dropped on whatever protocol we have, 3-4 weeks ago, where we're not in our normal flow. We're not in our daily routine, and we're not doing what we're used to doing. And usually you go back and you kind of check the fundamentals, and usually there's something off there that you can fine tune or figure out how to get back on track with.
Yeah, there's definitely a change in the protocol for sure. What was your protocol prior? You and I used to work out in the morning, did things outdoors a lot more. There were, for me, there was a session in the morning at a Starbucks on my usually around early 9-ish, 8:30-ish in the morning on my way out the door. I would stop for a half hour and do my gratitude list and my intentions for the day before I got into my first appointment or so in the day. What's the big drastic change for you here?
I'd say my AM routine, so to speak, hasn't changed very much. In fact, I've actually bought myself a little bit extra time because my house is very close to my work. In fact, a lot of times I'll ride my bike to work, but even that 10-minute exchange between my house and here has bought me an extra 10 minutes to kind of think about my day. It's brought me an extra 10 minutes to spend time with my kids, where I can, walk into my office is kind of my garage right now. So if anything, it's created a little bit more space and a little bit more time for me, which I've actually enjoyed quite a bit.
Yeah. But what else has changed more drastically? For me, it's the home office environment, right? So I'm sitting in what I think is a nice home office, but the fact is I'm in one spot all day. So right. I have to manufacture breaks. I have to manufacture times in which I had these natural breaks during the day, before a lunch or after a midday appointment, where I would break and do regroup, I called it. So I would go through the things I wanted to accomplish that day and find out what needed to happen most. I'd make a list of people that I needed to call quickly and call those folks when I was on the road. I did things of that nature that now I'm finding I have to have more thought and purpose to. How about you?
Yeah. Well, I got a lot of thoughts on that. One of my favorite books that's come out the last couple of years is Deep Work by Cal Newport. And really it's he talks about deep work time blocks. And I know probably most people are familiar with time blocks and really blocking out time to do really important tasks. But, the research shows it's very hard to focus more than 60, 90 minutes at a time. So now more than ever, I'm trying to be super disciplined about getting in my 90 minutes, taking a hard 10-minute break. And I think where I used to screw it up is during that 10, 15-minute break, I'd get on the phone, I'd check a score to a game, I'd do something that continue to put inputs into my brain as opposed to just giving me a break. But I think those deep work waves, so to speak, so, 60 to 90 minutes break, 60 to 90 minutes break, 60 to 90 minutes break. And right there, you've put in a pretty hard day. And what I actually like about or love about what's going on right now is we have the opportunity to be in that proactive, creative mode that is next to impossible in the typical office environment.
Yeah, there's more creativity going on for sure. But what it forces, what I'm going to have to do, I haven't been very disciplined about it, is controlling my calendar a little bit more. Just the nature of what I do. I have a lot of people trying to place time on my calendar for various reasons, whether it be clients and or vendors and partners and people trying to give me updates. And some of it's necessary for me to keep knowledgeable, et cetera. But I need to place those 60, 90 minute deep work sessions. I need to do a better job. Right now, they're coming in half-hour blocks, and really, I'm getting maybe good 15 minutes out of that half hour of productivity. And I really need to work on literally booking that in my calendar a bit more. One where I flip the laptop down and just go to work on doing what I'm supposed to do. Right.
Well, the hardest meeting is the one to keep with yourself, right? And it's by far and away the hardest. However, it's by far and away the most important too. And I struggle with it all the time. I kick meetings with myself. I've blocked out this time to work on the business, so to speak, or I've blocked out this time to spend time thinking about the next 5-10 years. And I can kick that down the road all the way because I'm the only one that knows it happens. But I mean, we all know that's the most critical time. And not only do you owe that to yourself, but you owe it to your family, you owe it to your business, you owe it to your community to be able to spend in what you do best. And what we all do best is be creative and be proactive.
I don't want the listeners to miss that message. You just said that it's your personal responsibility to give your best.
Well, without a doubt. And the best way to do that is to create and be proactive. If you're sitting there and you're just, on everybody else's calendar and everybody else's agenda, and you're just responding to emails and cell phone you're losing your power. I mean, to me, without question. I mean, you do, it is your moral responsibility to bring your best, and to bring your best, you need to take that time of self-reflection and spend that time of, being creative before reactive. It's so key. Yeah. It's key to feel good too. Anytime we go out and we create and we're thinking about the future, generally that's a huge energy builder. And that's what I love about right now. It's a time to kind of, ratchet back a little bit and get all that energy built up. So as things come back to life, and they will sooner than later, I think, we have that renewed sense of motivation. We have that renewed sense of excitement as a result.
I think you're right. And we talk a little bit about it with my conversation with Jeff Harden here in this podcast about the collective and the message that's here. Dave, as the CEO of Blue Street Capital, you've had and fostered very carefully, by the way, a community of folks, a team, a camaraderie. You have everybody in the office. There's banter that goes on back and forth. There's this 5-hour workday. that you have, that you got your folks going to. Your world got rocked with locking everybody out and everybody going home to work. It wasn't so much the technology. You got your people up and running real quickly. Luckily, you had some good tools, and most of the people in the world I found that was a roadblock, but not an insurmountable roadblock. Most people do pretty well with that in today's world. Yeah. But tell me about the underlining pending angst you had when we first were going through this. I remember you and I talking about it. You had some angst about the team working remotely. And where are we now, roughly 3.5, 4 weeks into this?
Some big angst, because we've always been an in-office company. And I mean, culturally, I strongly believed it was critical for us to be in the office at the same time and get that energy from each other. And while I still believe that, it's really challenged that assumption that I had. And y'all know what we say about assumptions. And very quickly, we're seeing our operations team be incredibly more efficient. They do have more focus time, which they need, and they were kind of lacking that consistent focus time in our office environment. I'm seeing our salespeople be more productive than ever. And we've been doing an all hands meeting a couple times a week to just kind of discuss happenings in this dynamic environment. And, I really said, I feel more connected to our team now, last 3.5 weeks being out of the office than I ever have being in the office.
It's very interesting. I find that so interesting.
It's challenged every assumption I had about it, in an in-office environment. I'm finding we have a more productive team. I'm finding as connected with our team. I think there's certain things you need to do to see people. But maybe this whole being in the office every day is, kind of a bunch of baloney I've been feeding myself. I don't know.
You and I live a couple miles away, and yet not even a couple miles, maybe a mile. And we're on a video call right now. So we've all had these tools. We've been using Zoom, Ring Central, WebEx, Skype, GoToMeeting, Teams, whatever. Been using all of those tools for years, but very little video adoption. Very few people are using video. Now everybody's on video and everybody's trying to connect.
Crazy.
So that's a big win. I think there's a lot of fun things going on. I think people are infinitely more tolerant to kids and dogs right now because there's just no choice. Kids are around, dogs are around. I was talking to one guy today on a call that I don't know very well. He was on a video call and showed me his two boys were playing on a screen door with their faces, and the screen hadn't been cleaned in a long time, so they had these black marks all over their face. It was so funny, and it just broke up the meeting. I made it very, very interesting meeting. But
I think I have no doubt Harden got into this, but the universe just whatever you believe in just gave us a big time out, and I think I hope a lot of other people are seeing this too, and I have no doubt they are. It's I have 3 teenagers at home, and they're ready to bust out of the house. But gosh, we've had more family dinners in the last 2 or 3 weeks, and I've had more opportunity to connect with my kids in the last 2 or 3 weeks than I have, the last 5 or 6 years. So that's flat out amazing.
Yep, we talked with Risa Groux recently, and one of the big upsides is here in the Miller household, we have cooked a meal every dinner, right? And so we haven't gone out. We've cooked very cleanly, and we've had group buy-in on dinner, and so we've had dinners together as well. So that's definitely an upside here, positive. So Dave, what are you doing to measure the productivity of your employees, of your team right now? You mentioned they were more productive than ever. Is that based on end results, or are there other things that you're looking at?
Well, we have the KPIs that we follow as a business, but our very basic one for the sales team is calls and call time and meetings. So that was very easy for us to track that. We're working on some tools to help us track that a little bit better. But all the things that we were tracking before was portable, out to our new what do we call it now? Distributed workforce as opposed to remote workforce now. But it was. I mean, it's really amazing how different it is to mobilize everybody today versus what it would have been even 10 years ago. So we're following the same basic key indicators that we were prior to this happening.
And being in the leasing business, are you seeing a uptick in conversations that you're having right now with clients about leasing?
It depends, right? It depends on the industry. It seems in technology we've had quite a pickup, and a lot of it is based on our repeat business where customers need to mobilize their workforce. For example, schools or universities that we've done some business with, they had an immediate need to move a lot of their faculty off. Would be one example. We've actually worked with a few biotech firms that are selling testing equipment for coronavirus. So we've had some immediate pickup in that industry, which has been it's been cool to be able to support in that aspect as well. So however, we've had we worked with a company where they had a somewhat in the media business, and that's been that's just zeroed out for right now. So bulk of our business has been fairly consistent, with some new pickup, but they're, on that media side of the business, it's been really tough.
Yeah, there's certain industries that are just hit really hard right now. Some are locked down, some have handcuffed by the government. I mean, all retail and the entertainment business, a lot of that is just zero. So there's some toughness going on, no doubt, and it's all going to trickle around. But I'm a firm believer there's opportunity in chaos. I was taught that early in my career when I was back at what's now AT&T. Every time we had a big change or corporate structure or we got bought by a company, that was what we went to. We went to opportunity resides in chaos. So make sure that you look for that, and there's ways to position for that, I'm certain. And so
there's a cool book and a term that I use all the time based on some training that I've been through. Is the book's called Anti-Fragile. I actually posted on my Instagram not too long ago, right when this came. But the title of
what's your Instagram handle, Dave?
Dave_Rhoads, RHOADS, no E.
Okay.
But anyway, so anti-fragile, tough times don't last, tough people do. And, the subtitle of it, things that gain from disaster. I'm sorry, things that gain from disorder. So I love this term anti-fragile. I'm not a tattoo guy, but if I wrote a tattoo, it would probably have anti-fragile. And, the theory or the concept is if you're fragile, you break. Just think about a box, right? If it says fragile on there, you got to be careful with it. It might break. But if you're anti-fragile, right, the stronger you shake it or the more it rattles, the stronger you get. And I love that concept. And it's, the stronger the wind blows on the tree, the stronger the tree becomes. But I love this anti-fragile. So it's like the tougher our problems get or the harder things get, the stronger we're going to get.
Well, so growth is pain is the touchstone of growth, right? So pain or resistance, if you will, it doesn't have to be painful, but it's definitely, we're all experiencing some resistance right now.
Well, we are, man. And I love that because, right, pain's inevitable, right? Pain's going to happen. But suffering is not, suffering's optional, right?
Definitely optional.
Pain's like the wind. It's going to come no matter what. We're human beings. And I think as humans, we kind of beat ourselves up a little bit too much of we're not supposed to feel pain, but that's part of being human. Whether you suffer from it or not, that's optional.
Agreed. And we Americans are soft. So anytime there's any kind of inconvenience, it turns into pain and tragedy and sorrow. It's not.
I think if you watch the news, that you might, and you listen to the sensationalists. I mean, if you listen to the journalists, you'll right, you think that, but really, Americans we're freaking tough, man. We've been through a lot, and we always come out of it stronger. And you and I know enough people to know that the tougher shit gets, the better we get.
That's right. Q3 or Q4, maybe even Q1 if this thing delays a little bit more of next year. One of those quarters is going to be, mark my words, people, the fastest growing quarter in the history of the United States since post World War II. It's going to be.
So?
It's going to be that big a growth. I know it. It's a right sizing. It's going to be a bloodletting, right? There's going to be some companies that aren't the same companies when they come out of it. There's going to be some new tech and new ideas and new things to happen out of this. People are making masks right now. Telemedicine, telehealth, teledentistry is taking off. You name it. There's opportunity in this. And so I'm feeling like it's time to get ready and poised for the growth. Dave,
this is what we talked before. This is what we train for. It's taken us all these years, and we've learned so much, and we've been working so hard. And so now it's time to pull together, get as resourceful as you possibly can, bring your best on a daily basis. And again, we've been training for this our whole lives at whatever stage you're at in your life. We have the resources and we have the power to plow through this thing.
We do. So I wholeheartely agree. We talked, Bob Groux was on here, and we talked about the morning routine and the ritual and making sure to stay with those. And that's critically important. I agree. And we have been training for this. This is what our positive mindset and reading and growth is about. So speaking of growth, Arete, always on that growth trajectory, always being your best. We touched on a little bit here, but what does that mean to you right now? What are some of the areas for growth for Dave? I'll tell you, for one, I've been working, hate to say this, working on it, but it's true. If I'm going to be honest and true, I had to work on being the best Mike I can be here in the household. Right. So not only am I going to work all day in an office, but then I'm having to come back out and do dishes and clean the house and walk the dogs and try and be supportive to the rest of the family. And I'm, that's on my intention list for the day, is how I can be the best Mike I can be in that situation, as well as be the best Mike I can be at finding where my, next opportunity is going to come from, that kind of stuff. So tell us about Arete and how that equates to you today.
Yeah, well, I love that you say you're working on it, because, frankly, we'll never be done with the work. You're never, I don't know, maybe I used to think about it wrong. Like there's actually some kind of a destination, or there's somewhere we're going to end up. But the work side of things, we're never exonerated from doing the work of getting better, because it's yield what a master, right? A master hopes you, for every 2 miles you walk, you got another mile to go, or I forget. For every mile you walk, you got 2 more to go. It's like, we'll never get better, and that's the beauty of, and the concept of Arete is you're always closing the gap between where you are now and where you can be. You're always closing that gap, and frankly, you'll never get there. The Arete is it's like a shining star. So if you're not closing that gap, and you're not working towards getting better, and you're not doing the things that you could be doing, that's where anxiety, stress, disillusionment kicks in. And so I love that theory of, closing the gap, or in football, they call it shooting the gap. It's like, we're always closing it, knowing full well we'll never get there. We always got to work towards it. And that's life. That's the fun part. Yeah.
I love that. Dave, so I'd be remiss without asking you, workouts, right? So you and I have, been doing internal workouts. That means at home more than ever. So, I personally have developed a nice little groove going on here. I have an every other day circuit that I'm doing in my home gym. My wife and my daughter are sometimes doing double ups. They're doing twice a days in the home gym. I've got, I just showed you my little yoga studio. My office turns into a yoga studio in the evening.
That's nice. You got the candles going in there and everything.
From 4 to 5. Good setup. From 4
I'm
to 5.
I'm in a cold garage. You got nice warm candles and whatnot.
Hey, I'll tell you, the candle is something I stole off a podcast. So on conference calls now, I have a candle lit next to my PC. And if you think of the campfire kind of analogy, where people stare for endlessly at a campfire and kind of get lost in thought.
Right.
I go into these conference calls, and I'm on video for one, so make sure I'm not multitasking. 2, I have a candle just out of sight where I'm watching that flame, and it allows me to literally lower my blood pressure and get right into a very calm state quickly. So I that's a little hack for anybody who wants to talk about candles. But the workout routine has gotten awesome. Love the floor exercises. I love the fact you can drop and do 20 anytime you want. I'm dressed fairly casual most of the days, so I can get a little sweat beat on and not worry about that in between calls, if you will. So what are you doing? What are you doing different?
Well, like you said, we've kind of definitely created kind of a home workout environment. We got the Peloton going. I got my 12-year-old daughter who gets up early in the morning and in that thing. And we got full squat rack in the garage. And when it's nice out, we'll get the pool. We'll get the dumbbells out and do some pool weights and whatnot. So we got a pretty good routine going. What I love is it's got me outside a lot more. Of course, we got a little bit of rain this week, but that's nothing in California. So
yep.
The beach workouts that you and I have been doing, 6 feet away, of course.
That was great. Run. We had the boys out there. All the Miller boys were out there, and we were doing battle ropes and intermittent set workouts, tag team 2-on-2. We took it to the kids, didn't we? Barely. Yeah. Okay.
I think I cheated on my burpees a little bit, but don't tell them.
We did win though. As long as they care, we did win.
Yeah, but Luke brought the fire hose out there and off the lifeguard tower. It was cool, man. We were having fun.
Yeah, that's good. We need to get back.
But I noticed, because I'm outside a lot in the mornings for a number of years. But what I've noticed more than anything, especially early in the morning, is it's flushed a lot of these people out who are kind of jimmies. They love going into the gym. It's kind of flushed them out onto the boardwalk and the beach more early in the morning. So I think there's definitely a component of, from that standpoint, it's pushing people more outside where they should be anyways, in my view.
I agree. It's better to get outside. And I'm even seeing families on their bikes on the weekends, riding around. I see people taking walks more often. I think there's some positive here. Definitely. I think there's a big upside for it. Davey, I'm super grateful to have you on the podcast here and sharing with us all of your growth-oriented stuff. Anything else you wanted to leave us with here during this quarantine?
No, man, I appreciate you having me on, Mike. I love your leadership and how you're getting people on to kind of talk about them and your authenticity. And I really appreciate you having me, man.
Awesome. Good luck, Davey. Appreciate it. And we'll talk shortly.
All right, brother. Thanks for having me.
Jeff Harden, welcome to the special quarantine edition of the Boardroom Sessions podcast. How you doing?
Good to be here, Mike. I'm doing well, thanks.
Hey, so Jeff Harden is a longtime friend of mine. We go all the way back to college. We were college fraternity roommates together. And Jeff is a local business guy here in Orange County. He works for Ingram Micro, little company in Orange County here that most of you might know. But more importantly to me, Jeff is what I would consider one of my mentors and counselors when it comes to things like mindfulness and meditation and gratitude. And Jeff and I get an opportunity to talk daily, most good days. And I wanted to bridge some conversations with you, Jeff, today, because I think you have some good feedback here for the listeners. So appreciate you being on here. I'm going to start with the big question. What is the universe trying to tell us as a collective whole? We're all in this together, right? So what is it trying to tell us right now with this whole quarantine?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is the big question, isn't it? And, what we're experiencing at the moment is something very, very unique, certainly in our lifetimes, and probably over the course of generations. There's been very few times short of war, I think, where people in mass have found themselves in a similar circumstance. And I don't know when there's been a global situation, maybe going back to the pandemic in 1918, where we as a species were all under the same set of circumstances. And here we are today. And certainly the way you and I have discussed for a long time, and my thinking is that there's always a reason, that there's something to be extracted from the moment. And something of this size and magnitude certainly screams out that there's a meaning. And to be honest, I think it's more about, certainly for me, about asking that question in my daily meditation: what does this mean? And I think the answers are in two categories. There's the answer that's specific to the individual asking. I think there's a collective answer. And so daily, I'm searching for more and more clarity around what this means for me, what I can extract from it to be a better person, how I can take that lesson and those opportunities to my family and community. And then I'm also asking the question, what does it mean to the greater community, to the global community? And it certainly seems that there's a lot to unpack there. But in short, it's a mandated pause, and it seems that certainly the world is been moving faster and faster, and we've been more and more consumed with things that distract us from our larger purpose. And whether that's work or electronics, whether that's searching for the next shiny object, whatever it is, to the individual, this moment of pause is sort of, at least for me, bringing me back to a feeling of community and connection. And that's been rather ironic in the face of social distancing, that there's been this opportunity to sort of feel a connection to everybody. And it's in that space I'm sort of feeling some gratitude and sort of seeing the purpose or a revisited purpose around the collective meaning that we have and what we are here to share sort of in our local communities, but more globally as well.
So the collective part is what I think is interesting here in this conversation. We dive a lot into the individual. What does this mean for me as a person? And some of the other conversations. And you're right. It's 100% around what can I do to be the best person I can be today during this. And I think there's a lot of growth opportunities there. But from a collective perspective, everybody's in this together. This is the only time in my life, other than maybe 9/11 for a week or two, where we felt like we were all in something together, right? This is impacting everybody's life in a major way. And we're all in it together. So what are the big lessons that we all are learning as a species, right? As a whole, and not just as a society, but as a whole. And I definitely agree. It's the pause, right? It's the, what can we do? And what can we do to reflect on what's most important? And I'll tell you, some of the best things in my experience have been, the time with the family around cooking together, right? We cook a couple times a week in a regular week, but we've cooked dinners every single night and had a family dinner time every single night together, face to face, and that's precious, man. That's the most important thing. That was an old school tradition. I grew up with my parents. We had dinner at the table, and it's one of those things that's kind of faded off a bit. People eat when they can, or even when we eat dinner together, we're kind of doing other things as well. And I think there's this great pause there. There's also this time now that I'm in the house, right? You're at home, you're working from home more than normal. So there's time in the day where you can actually go and be with the family and do things there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, just yesterday was my daughter's 9th birthday. And
happy birthday, Sarah.
So we're at quarantine time, and I think most 9-year-old young ladies would like to, she had plans to go to Great Wolf Lodge with, 4 of her best friends. And certainly those plans were pushed out. And there's probably any number of other things she would have liked to have done than to spend the day in our home, at home for her 9th birthday. But I have to tell you, and I think she would tell you the same, that yesterday was one of the more special birthdays she's had to date. And we spent the day as a family, and we did a bunch of fun things that she scripted. And that included a donut run in the morning. Don't tell my wife. We had a foosball tournament. We had a dance party. We went for several walks and played outside. And we just were present with her through the day. And it was amazing. She felt the love. We had our family and friends sending her congratulatory videos, specifically humorous ones. And so through the day, we got those videos arrived, and she felt loved and supported by those who weren't here. And it was a really, really wonderful day. And it was really about just being together as a family. It was really about being present, and it really didn't matter where we were. And it was a great day. That's
awesome. I love the way you incorporated all the new ways of having fun there. And I saw a couple of those videos. Those are you have a beautiful family, man. That's awesome that you work on that. And on a good day, Jeff, without being on quarantine, you're a pretty mindful guy. You practice transcendental meditation, I believe, TM, as we call it, bi-daily, right? You do it twice a day without fail. So you're very plugged into awareness of your presence of where you're at and what you're doing. So Is there anything changed in your program there?
That's a great question, Mike. You and I have certainly spent a lot of time around daily routine, and certainly that's critical to my wealth, or to my health and wellness, and maybe to my wealth as well, to the things that I'm pursuing. A little Freudian slip there. So I've doubled down on that routine. The structure today is more important since I'm in the house and have less flexibility to get out and to do things that I love. And so, the daily routine is in place and in order. And I've made sure that I've prioritized that and even extended it a little bit. But specific to the household, we've created a routine that extends to everybody in the house. And the kids are 9 and 10, soon to be 9 and 11. And they're doing homeschooling, as most kids now, I think probably everywhere, are doing. But they've got a routine. They're doing distant learning or online learning, and that's going quite well. And we've created a structure that works for them. They seem to be really enjoying this quarantine, funny enough. I don't think they really know better or know the severity of what's going on outside, though we do talk about that. And then when my wife gets home from work, we're spending an hour at the end of each day exercising, and we're making it fun. We're doing obstacle courses one day, Frisbee another day, and we're hiking hills on another day. And so that's been a great new addition to the routine. And then like you, Mike, we're cooking dinner together. And while in the past we might have eaten separately, we're eating together, talking about the day. And we're taking the opportunity, like we've mentioned already, to be with each other, to be present with each other. And the day and the structure has been working really well. Everyone seems to be, doing just fine with the stay at home, as long as there's some structure and understanding kind of what we're doing day in and day out. That seems to be working well. That's
awesome that you bring that up. I find it just personally, I have to have structure in my day, and I have to have my morning routine. This morning, for example, I got up early as normal and went down to the beach for a run with a good buddy of mine, and had some very positive conversation down there about our day and our week and things that we want to accomplish in our lives at a high level. I came home, I finished my in the gym workout, and I got dressed, shaved, put a collared shirt on for video meetings. And I'm working just as if I would on any other day, right? A full calendar, back-to-back meetings, including this time to record this. So that normalcy, that sense of normalcy is very important for me. And I'm fortunate enough in this environment that we have online yoga that I can book in my day with a couple candles lit in my office turns into a yoga studio at the end of the day. And I get a little online yoga, which is not quite the same as a hot yoga session, but I guess it's the next best thing here. And one of the first things I'm looking forward to going back to when we get back to normalcy is a good sweaty hot yoga session. But that sense of routine is super important to me. And I think that's in general, but the way you've incorporated that with your family is awesome. I love the group workouts with the kids. That's awesome, and that's not normal for you. Your wife works pretty late hours. She works pretty hard she's in the healthcare business. So it's good to have her home, I bet.
Yeah, it has been, Mike. She has worked pretty crazy hours for a number of years since she opened OC Whole Family Wellness. It's been four and a half years ago, and it's been her life's passion. So she certainly enjoys the hours and enjoys the commitment, but it's been quite demanding, as you know. And this is sort of one of the blessings that's come along with the virus. It's finding an opportunity in the situation, and for her, that opportunity has been to scale back her hours a little bit. She's converted to telemedicine, so her patients are connecting to her by Zoom or by phone. And she's able, for the first time in some time, to be able to come home around 5 or 5:30. And to your point, that's a first in quite a while. And we're taking that time to go out and to exercise and to cook dinner and to have a full evening together. So that's been a blessing for her. It's been a welcomed reprieve for her, the demands of work. And then it's been great for the family having her home earlier and being able to take that extra time to bond as a family, starting that, earlier in the day than we have in the past.
I think that's going to be one of the big takeaways is the efficiencies of remote work, right? So telemedicine, teledentistry, teleconsulting, whatever. We're getting used to using these video sessions like you and I are on right now, and making it more personal. We've had these tools for a long time, but people used them only for audio bridges primarily and document sharing. Now everybody's on video. And they've got their kids in their lap or their dogs in the background, and no one's embarrassed to show that kind of stuff because we're all in quarantine together. We're all in it together. So I find that interesting. I bet you that Julie is going to have some advancements in time constraints. So there's going to be probably more efficiencies from being able to do medicine without having to have people actually in the office.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely agree. And I've had a similar experience on her end. It certainly will open up additional options, patients that may not live locally and can be connected to her by phone from another state, for instance. That would certainly open up possibilities there. But I agree with you. You and I both prefer and make our livings going and seeing our customers.
Belly to belly.
And that's a passion we share, absolutely. But I have to say, over the last 2 weeks, using Zoom or using Teams or RingCentral, whatever the platform of choice, typically in the past, that's been a dial-in experience on a conference call or even a meeting with a customer. I would say 80 to 90% of those today have been converted to video, and I think we all want to connect. And ironically, I'm not out seeing customers yet, not now, and for a little while yet. But my connection to my teammates and the customers by way of video has been really, really exceptional. And it's been that dog in the lap. It's been the shared sort of experience. We're all in this together. It kind of goes back to that universal experience that we're all sharing. And there's just a compassion and understanding for one another that we share that sort of immediately bonds us. And we get on and we're looking at each other. We know kind of that we're both in the same circumstance. And it's just a platform right from the get-go to have some rapport and to get the meeting off to a good start. And it's been surprising how connected I feel with just leveraging technology. It's been a surprise, frankly.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, I know for certain, I was talking about this on my run this morning, that one of the things I'm going to take away for sure is I'm going to write into my calendar at least a work from home day or two a week where I have these meetings via video, where I'm not commuting and doing the normal day-to-day that I normally do, and seeing if I can't be more efficient with my time. That's going to require some very disciplined things. I've found some not so good additions to the work routine here. For one, the email's open all day. And so I'm eager to get a couple of those emails that just come in, the first in, first out kind of situation where somebody sends you a note and you chime back and then you're in this two-way conversation all of a sudden. That's not efficient. That's definitely not efficient for the amount of email that most people get and I get for sure. The best way to deal with that is in blocks and chunks, and that's something I need to work on for sure. But I'm definitely going to take this, use this technology we're all using today and moving it forward and put it into the works.
It's working.
Yeah, it's working. So this is awesome. The family time, the things you're working with in your world are good. You're a pretty grateful guy and a mindful guy. So I wanted to talk about mindfulness for a minute. You challenge me often. As a matter of fact, I Instagrammed something while you and I were on the phone the other day, which was directly to you. I think you caught it. I said, stop and smell the roses, right? And don't forget to stop and smell the roses. And I had a bunch of pictures of my neighbor's rose garden out there. And that's you. That's what I entail you. And I think about the things that you tell me to do. How have you been practicing that in this environment, or is it any different, or is it just the same? And how are you trying to stay connected with people in your sphere of influence, both neighbors? I know you're really into being, you're a guy who has a lot of social human interaction. So how do you mind those things, the mindfulness and the connections in this environment?
That's a good question. I want to start before I forget, Mike, to mention something I've shared with you to your audience, and that's the father of mindfulness meditation, John Kabat-Zinn, has a global daily meditation that's at 11 o'clock Pacific time, and it's by Zoom, and so it's free, no charge. You can look him up and join 11 o'clock each day, but you've got thousands of people from all over the planet joining into what's really a 30-minute mindfulness meditation followed by some Q&A. And if you're familiar with the practice, it'll be an easy transition. If you're not, it's a wonderful way to get exposed to the practice, but no better guy to get exposed from than the founder of the movement himself. And so I wanted to share that. It's been really instrumental for me on a daily basis as part of my grounding exercise. But back to the larger question, Mike, it's my intention at least to exit this period, and whether that's another week or whether that's another several weeks, having grown, having become better from the experience. And so one, it's pondering that what does this all mean question that we started the discussion with. And it's two, being as present and mindful as I can sort of day to day. And I recognize I have more of an opportunity in this environment to do that, fewer distractions. I mean, we've got work and we've got kids running around, but plenty of time to be in the moment, whether that's playing with the kids or whether that is working or whether that's sitting quietly. And so I'm challenging myself daily to do whatever it is I'm doing, and whether that's literally smelling the roses, talking to a customer, or just sitting quietly to be present. That's sort of the big calling. And it's in that space that I'm just better. I'm more lucid. I'm more clear. I'm more healthy. I'm more well. And so that's sort of the calling, the invitation for me. And I'm trying to do the best to rise to that occasion. And I think I'm finding this environment really conducive to that exercise. So that's what I'm doing on a personal basis in the house. And then to your second question, I mean, I live in a community where there's quite a few people out walking their dogs, walking with their kids, riding with their kids on bikes or what. So there's social interaction and community interaction. And, I think we touched on this earlier. There's just something a little more special, even though you're 6 feet away, waving to your neighbor, waving to a stranger, because there's just this commonality. There's this, I know what you're going through.
Yeah.
On some level, what I'm going through. I want you to feel that I'm supporting you, and I suspect that you're supporting me. And, there's this collective, we're going to get through this together, that I sort of feel. And it's really quite beautiful. And I'm hopeful that those gestures, just the hellos, the more compassionate sort of looks to one another is part of something that we all take out of this experience. And as we sort of move past the virus and move past the quarantine, that we move back into sort of the real world again, more loving and more compassionate with one another. And I think this is providing that opportunity.
Right. And now we're on that topic. You're a big hugger. So am I. Bro hugs around, right? So bro hugs, handshakes, moments. As a matter of fact, you have a tendency to reach out and touch when people are talking, when you're talking with them, like to make a point. How are you going to adjust? Is it the fist hammer like Jocko Willink, claims? Is that our new greeting? Are we going to be like Roman soldiers running around championing our fists on each other, or are we going to like elbow fives? What's the new norm going to look like after this is all over?
It's funny, Mike. I don't know how much time people have given to that question. For me, I've given a ton because it does matter, and I want to reconnect with people, and I want to hug them again and shake hands and be close, and
no doubt,
it's just part of the way I connect. And so, what's it going to be? I don't know. My wife's certain that we're going to change our handshaking, tradition, and I certainly hope that isn't the case. And she said maybe we'll move to bowing to one another, which is in itself a beautiful gesture. But I'll be interested to see how that sort of transfers as we go back. And there certainly will be a new norm, and where that fits in the new norm, I don't know. But I'll be one advocating for resuming the handshake and the hug as soon as it's safe enough to do so.
No doubt, me too.
Important.
Me too.
Yeah,
I choose to stay well. I choose to believe that I'm healthy and going to be fine, and I'm going to hug people until they creep out on me and tell me not to hug them. At any rate, any recommendations here, Jeff, for us on the second half of the month of April?
I think it's the things we've talked about, Mike. I'm listening to more podcasts. I'm grateful to be participating in yours. I think the predominant attitude and perspective I'm taking is around gratitude. I wouldn't have chosen this set of circumstances to learn lessons, to be quarantined indoors, but I'm certainly looking to take the opportunity as best as I can to find the meaning in it, to take lessons from it, and certainly to be grateful that there is a pause, a collective pause, to find meaning for me personally, to find meaning in the greater good collectively. And I'll end with this. I saw last night that this is the 75th anniversary of Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning, and that's certainly timely. And by no means is, what I compare our current circumstances to his, being in a concentration camp for a number of years. But his lessons around the one thing you can control is your attitude certainly rings true today. And I think it's a great lesson for me to be reminded of. And it's the one thing I know every day. I don't know when the quarantine lifts. I don't know what the economy is going to be like in an hour from now, or certainly in the next months. But my perception and my attitude around the things is something I can control. And that if remembered and that if exercised can be very, very powerful and very profound. And so I'm trying to hold that one near and dear. And I think I'm going to get that book off the shelf and reread just to make sure I'm staying in touch with that lesson.
I've heard that book referenced a few times and recently, so it's absolutely right. There's a lot of things we can't control right now, and your attitude, your effort, your actions, your words, those are all things that you can. And he does a great job of describing how that was the one thing they could never take away from him. They could beat him, they could do whatever they could to him, but they could not take his attitude away. And he chose to have a happy attitude, and he consistently continues to do that until the day he died. And so that's awesome.
That's beautiful.
Yep. Okay. Thanks, Jeff. I sure appreciate you being on the podcast here today, and look forward to have another of our conversations with you.
Likewise, Mike. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for the time.
Take care. Bob Groux, thanks for joining us on this special quarantine edition of the podcast. Bob Groux, you are the CEO of Coast Brands and a very active member in my network. You're what we were jokingly referred to as my guru, Bob Groux. And you are one of the most down-to-earth and yet motivated guys I know. So welcome.
Well, thanks, Mike. It's good to be here again.
Hey, so
under different circumstances.
Yeah, you love listening to my podcasts. I hear some good things and appreciate the feedback. Let's dive into the quarantine here. You're huge on the morning routine. You and I have you've helped me build a morning routine that I call morning ritual. And it's better. It's best now. It's better now than ever. Needed more now than ever. And so in a way, I think we've been training for this for a long time, right? And so here we are in this environment. Why don't you let us know what you're doing in your routines?
So as you know, I've preached for years that morning rituals, the most important thing about morning rituals is that you're consistent with them. And so I've never missed a day in probably, the 8 or 10 years that I've been doing it. So it wasn't going to change just because of the quarantine. In fact, it became even more and more important because that morning ritual kind of fuels me in the morning. And if I don't do it, I don't even know what kind of headspace I'd be in. So
why don't you tell us a little bit about your ritual? What's involved in your ritual?
So the first thing I do, and really when I open my eyes, is I say thank you, God, for another day, and then I do a couple prayers that are special to me, and then I pull out my journal, which is really my gratitude book, and I write down at least 10 or 12 things that I'm grateful for. I write 10 or 12 I am statements focused on what I want to accomplish that day. So if I want to be productive, I'll write I am productive. If I need to be creative with a business solution or something else, I'll write I am creative. If I'm plan on seeing my kids that day, or my daughter's coming down from LA, it's a great dad, and I am a great dad, and I want to be focused on those things. So
affirmation statements, right? Affirmations.
Yeah,
things that you want
That's
to
right.
be.
Daily affirmations. And then right after that, I write down my action plan for the day. And sometimes that starts the night before. I'll pull out my book, and if some things are on my mind that I feel I need to accomplish the next day, I'll write them down, the night before instead of the next day. But that usually consists of 8 or 10 things that I want to accomplish that day. And 85% of the time I accomplish all of them. If I don't, it's the result of me not being able to get a hold of somebody. But if I can do that, if I do that consistently, then I feel like I'm productive that day. I feel like I'm creative that day. I feel like I'm getting after it that day. But if I don't, then I'm just kind of floundering out there. So that's what my morning ritual really consists of. I don't know if I mentioned meditation, because I do that right after I do my gratitude, my daily affirmations. I'll meditate for 20 minutes, and that really kind of energizes me. It gets me focused. So
are you doing transcendental meditation? Are you doing TM, where you have a mantra and you focus on that mantra, or are you doing a mindfulness meditation where you're trying to get quiet and think of nothing? Give us a little view into that.
I've been doing TM for about 4 years,
okay.
I want to say now. And so I do it, the suggestion is to do it for 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes in the afternoon. I usually get 20 minutes in the morning and 5 to 10 minutes in the afternoon. And it's just, for some reason, more difficult for me to do in the afternoon. Maybe it's because it's later in the day and I'm still doing things. But yeah, it's TM. I found that it energizes me. It just, it works for me. So I've stuck with TM and I really like it.
Good, real good. And so where do you think the opportunity is here? I believe strongly that there's an immense amount that we can be learning from the collective fact that we are all in the United States, at least, under a lockdown and a quarantine of some type. So we are all kind of in a collective state together, for one. Two, we all have the ability to be spending more time at home with our loved ones and do things a bit differently in our routine. Where do you think the big opportunities are here for individuals?
So, if you mean opportunities on a personal level, or
yes.
you mean
yes.
opportunities? Yes. Okay. So, I have, as I've told you, I have a number of guys that call and check in with me, and a lot of them have been in bad headspaces for whatever reason. But one of the things that, or several of the things that I've been doing outside of staying in action and working on my routine and getting exercise every day. And the exercise has really been key with me because, as you know, you and I both do hot yoga. The studio's closed down.
I'm still regular doing yoga every night. Thank goodness. Thank goodness for Radiant.
I didn't hear you.
I said, thank goodness for Radiant. They're allowing us they do a live session on Instagram every night. So that's been a savior for me. I've been pretty regular, 4:00. Had Ashley the other day.
That's great.
It was awesome.
That's awesome. I have been going out for walks and going out for hikes, but going to places other than I would normally go to kind of give me a bit of a new experience, make it a little more adventurous. But I think the most important thing that I tell the guys to check in with me are to make sure that they stay regular with their routine. They get out and walk every day, obviously observing social distancing. They stay in action. But, a few of the things that I'm doing now that I wasn't doing during, non-quarantine time is I've really tried to stay connected with as many people as possible. And, I think that human connection, especially for somebody that lives alone like me, is really important. So I'll FaceTime people, I get involved in Zoom meetings and things like that. But I stay connected with others. I keep really close with the family, with my kids. And we still have a family dinner every Sunday night. Probably the biggest thing that I've done is tackling the things that I've been putting off for years. So whether that's, cleaning out the garage, making sure the filing cabinet is completely organized, or just reading a book or two that you always wanted to read and never got to.
Yes.
Those are all the things that I'm doing, and that's helped me a lot. A, you always feel better when you're organized, and B, you're accomplishing things that you've been putting off for years. And, we all do it. I'm not alone in that respect, but, I've read a couple books that I've wanted to read for a long time, number one. And I've really, my house is immaculate because I've got the time to do it. But all those things, and you take them all combined, from the routine to the exercise, to the action plan, to staying connected with others, staying close to the family and having great conversations with them, and then doing those things that you haven't done, that you always put off and said you'd get to. I think those are what have really helped me kind of not just get through this, but thrive through this, and stay positive and stay optimistic.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you. I think there's a growth trajectory. I saw a really cool diagram that was shared amongst the crew where the paradigm is, who do you want to be during COVID-19, right? And the question was, are you in fear, or are you in learning, or are you in growth, right? And so I think what you're describing is where I try and live every day, is in the growth trajectory, right? So my battle cry is arete. Arete is the definition of dedication to growth. So very, very eager to continue that growth. I think there's a lot of opportunity for us to grow here during this time. Bob, you're a businessman. I think you're just recently looking at a major expansion into your business portfolio. And so where do you see some of the opportunities here? I'm seeing in my business, some clients take complete advantage of the market right now to adapt quickly and to still differentiate. One of my clients, which is a dental firm, had their entire business shut down, mandated shut down, like they were not allowed to see patients. Federal mandate, which I don't think has ever happened before. So that happens. They then in turn, within a matter of a week and a half, 2 weeks, call it, have launched tele-dentistry for the first time in 2 weeks. That's an unprecedented time frame to jump with a partner, utilize existing technology, layer up, shore up, make sure it was, covered with the proper compliance and delivered. And they are now in the business of doing teledentistry as much as you can without putting your hand in somebody's mouth, right? They can definitely diagnose. Right. They can definitely find out if it's impacted, which would qualify for an emergency. And if it is, then they can get them in to see an emergency dental office. So that's just one example of what I'm seeing as opportunity and chaos. Are you seeing anything? And you have a pretty big network of high wealth individuals. What are you seeing in the market right now?
Well, I'm kind of seeing a mixed bag of things. Obviously, businesses most of the businesses are shut down, and that's a really tough deal. But I think it's forced people to really look, especially entrepreneurs, to look at their business and find out, where are my weak spots? Where are my strengths? What can I do differently? So that if something like this hits again, which it likely will, what can I have in place that's going to make it easier for me to get through it or thrive through it next time? And I think a lot of people are finding that, working from home or having a team work from home, it's not as difficult as people think. And at this stage of the game, I think most small businesses like me realize that it can be done. So I think, more flexible hours, making sure that you've got enough money saved for next time so that you can continue to carry people through payrolls and times like this is really important. I'm wondering if there's going to be an insurance program coming out next time, like pandemic insurance, so that you can get your payments to keep your business afloat through when this thing hits again.
Kind of like an afflick for a pandemic.
Yeah.
There's
an idea right there.
Yeah.
Pandemic insurance. So I think there's I think the benefits I see coming out of this is for business owners is really having an opportunity to sit back, look at their business, really examine, what do I need? What do I not need? What can I do without? And how can I prepare better for it next time?
Yes. Great advice. So Bob, continue with you mentioned continue with the routines, develop, if you don't have them now, develop them now. Routines which will carry you through any time like this. Routines that help build your mental state, that give you a state of gratitude, that give you one of reflection through meditation. Make sure that your physical state, your body is in motion. Go for walks, go for runs, etc. And there's opportunity in chaos in business, and there's opportunity to right size, clean house right now, both physically, proverbially, in your business, right?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I think that would be a good summary.
Good. Well, Bob, I appreciate you taking the time with all of us today. And as you mentioned the business remote workers, we're going to have a conversation with Dave Rhoads here from Blue Street Capital, where he's seeing some definite benefits of having his team work remotely. And he was a big resistor of that at the beginning, but through this forced environment, he's seen some different things. So folks will listen to that or hear that as well here on the podcast. So thanks, Bob. Appreciate it.
I can't wait to hear that. Give Dave Rhoads a big hug for me.
I will. You bet. Thanks, Bob. Kristan Sargent, welcome to the Boardroom Sessions mid-quarantine podcast.
Thank you.
So,
Happy to be here.
You're a business leader, a coach, a therapist, a consultant to both personal folks and to organizations. You're a practitioner of one of my favorite books, The Tools, and the list goes on here. And so you're perfectly positioned, in my opinion, to give us some advice here on what to do during the quarantine. So thank you very much for being on here. And so I'll just start with the first major question. What advice would you have for us during this quarantine?
Well, thank you for having me. It's fun. It's been so fun to get to connect with people in this medium more and more so, and experience the connection that's just right here at our fingertips. So, this is a good example. This opportunity that we're kind of taking advantage of right now and stepping into. So many people, this wasn't happening in this kind of frequency and volume. Now we're all connecting on Zoom. So human beings are infinitely resourceful and ingenious. And now is a really great time. We've been given the gift of time, if you will. One thing I want to say is that, it feels really important to me to acknowledge always before I, start talking about the opportunity, that it's also obviously a period of tremendous loss and grief for people. So that's real, that's really happening.
It is real. Yeah. I've known several people who've been down and out with it. And beyond that, I know a bunch, unfortunately, thousands of people that are out of work.
Yeah, I know. It's rocking our world. And, a big part of the truth of, what day-to-day life looks like is some days aren't going to be days where we're just like racing towards the opportunity. We're not always going to feel like that. There's going to be feelings that come up, and there are going to be days that call for stillness, where it seems like maybe nothing's happening, but it's part of this kind of culture-wide gestation we're in, where there's almost a culture-wide values reset happening because of the the slowdown, and the stillness we're all facing. I mean, a lot of us have lost a lot. If we haven't lost actual people, we've just lost so much of the way we, do life and
our freedoms, our personal freedoms.
Our freedoms and our identifications. And, part of that is kind of confronting for us. Like, we don't have our addictions available to us. And the way I do life is suddenly just like, whoa, I'm faced with a lot of me time. And again, that can be, confronting and a little destabilizing. And then ultimately, if you hang out there long enough, one of the things I'm fond of saying is like, there is just no feeling that's too big for us. I think we're really taught, we get the message in this culture that we can't really handle our feelings, that we got to be afraid of our feelings, but we really don't. Feelings are like clouds and they pass. And so you let, I don't encourage anybody to be in some kind of false state that you're not in. Be where you are, but trust that thing, that grief or that moment of pain or loss is going to move through. And then you're going to be at a deeper place of kind of self-reckoning and presence if you really brave, feeling what you're feeling. And then, on the flip side of that, there's this unprecedented opportunity to put some time and energy, take risks that we haven't been willing or able, just literally because of time constraints, to take before. I feel like you're going to jump in.
No, I'm just going to say that absolutely, that this is a time for some folks that they don't know how to use their time constructively, right? So this is a perfect opportunity to go through and look at the goal setting and look at the what is my purpose here in life and things of that nature. There's also a subset of groups of folks that I'm talking to. I don't know how to slow down. And so it's not in my nature. And I find myself, if I'm not having the actual things that I was having before, and I'm going into other areas to do things, I start to get, I don't know if it's unhealthy at points of time where I'm making things to do, right? I cleaned the house already. That was done first week with the wife. We readjusted garage cleaning and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, we're getting well past that.
Yeah, it is a lot of stillness. And we as a culture, we are the most productive culture. American culture is all about work ethic. And, we take the least amount of vacation days. We're all about racing to some finish line that keeps moving ahead. So this is confronting for Americans, to have this much still time. What the message, if I can bring any message, so much of my work has to do with the power of our unconscious minds and how unacquainted we are with the fact that there is a there. We're really afraid of facing that void. Stillness and time on our hands kind of insists that we look internally into what we think is a void. we think that there's no there there. That's how we experience our unconscious minds. I was saying to you before, me and you in conversation right now in the present tense, that's our ego selves. That's the tip of the iceberg. Most of us exists in this huge realm that is so much larger than us. It's the mystery. It's the collective. It's this source, place and state that we live in, basically. We're just a small part of, and we can actually gain access to insight and intelligence and instinct and impulse that is coming from a much larger dimension than just our small ego selves. And now would be the time to get really curious about, really, am I really made up of more than just the things I do every day and I feel like, treadmill that I'm on? And if Kristan says I am, then what do I do with that? And, how do I listen to that? And then how do I take action on that? Because those to me are two questions that are life-changing, is when you, number one, start to get curious. What else is in there? And maybe ask yourself some open-ended questions. And if you're a journaler, I think it's brilliant if you'll take the time, and all we have is time now, to literally write open-endedly, like dedicate a journaling session every day to your right brain, right? So again, we're so identified with our left brains, which is the world we see, what's visible, what's measurable. That's what we experience all of reality to be, when that's just one dimension of the world. If you shift into your right brain, which we can do actively, we can make an intention to open up to, get into an imaginal, creative, expansive state of mind where we listen and we follow instead of driving, which is what we're, accustomed to doing, which is usually what creates success in our lives. But what I'm asking you to do in this journaling session is open up some, what I call sacred space. And sacred space just means that your intention is to be curious, open, courageous, and non-judgmental. You're going to listen to the part of you that knows more than the small, limited, kind of left brain rational part of you.
Some people call that intuition.
Yeah, absolutely. And, and then ask yourself in that state, put yourself into that state of mind. And sometimes people like to really, in order to get into that state of mind, literally make some physical gestures, right? So light a candle, listen to music, some kind of expansive music that puts you in that more, there you go, that more expanded state of mind. Make a cup of tea, signal to your unconscious that you're going to take it seriously, because our unconscious mind is so used to being treated kind of like shit, honestly, because we just have no faith in this dimension of ourselves. So yeah, signal to yourself that you're really going to listen, and then ask yourself a series of open-ended questions. If money weren't a variable, what would I be pursuing? If time wasn't an issue, what have I been avoiding about myself because, using time as an excuse? What do I long to contribute? What would my future self tell me to begin right now? The one that knows I'm going to be, I'm going to be energy sooner than later. I'm not going to be here anymore. What does my future self want to tell me about what I need to start today? And then listen. This is what I mean about facing the void. Don't come up with the answer. Just listen for the answer, and then start writing from a place of, like you said, that intuition and following. It feels different than when we're jamming and kind of driving and forcing the information.
Sure.
It's a more receptive mode.
Sure. And I've used language in the past that I try not to use anymore to stay in that state of open, right? And I don't use words like grind or words that make it sound like I'm in a challenged state, right? So that's awesome. You're saying listen and follow and go through a journey of self-discovery right now while you have this time. And so when you do that, when someone comes through and starts to journal and starts to get in touch with some ideas that sound foreign, right? Because we haven't been giving them any credence. We have been too busy planning and scheming to do things that we wanted to do in our life, right? And thinking what it was the best path for us to get to where we wanted to get to. Then what? How do you know when an idea is a good idea or a bad idea? How do you take action on those ideas without, going crazy? Like
I love that question, because actually, I think that we don't make any judgment at this stage of the process. I think if you get an insight or you get information, you use the force of your will and your imagination to engineer a way to make it actionable. So one thing that I say to people all the time is like, it doesn't have to be some Jerry Maguire moment where we change our lives in a radical way. You might discover, on a concrete, let me use a value. Maybe you discover you want more meaning in your life. That's what your subconscious tells you, is like, life feels pretty shallow and empty. I want more meaning, but you don't know what to do with that. Like, that's pretty vague. So what your responsibility is, the ego self, the one who allocates the resources in the here and now, right? Has to take that information and do something about it. That's how you're going to win the alliance of your unconscious mind. It really doesn't matter what you do. Your unconscious, and I would really call it your shadow, quite frankly, is waiting to see if you mean business, because you've spent your whole life avoiding and negating this part of yourself that has this wisdom and intelligence. So if your subconscious reveals to you that you want more meaning in your life, then read, Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning.
Oh, we just talked about that. Jeff, who's on this podcast, talked about that. Yes.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just an example. Or, introduce some prompts at your dinner with your family that break beneath the surface, that go deeper, that, encourage everybody to reveal more of themselves and be a little bit more vulnerable. Engineer ways, get creative. If you, an example that I use often in my practice is, people come to me and they want to leave a dead-end job. They hate their work and they want to express more leadership, but they're kind of stuck in this job. They can't afford to leave it. And I'll say to them, well, leadership is the thing that you're wanting to express. Let's use any category of your life to get you expressing the value of leadership. So maybe take more leadership. Literally, it sounds cuckoo, but your physical environment. Take some leadership in your physical environment, with a crazy design idea, or leadership in your relationship with your partner or your kids.
Right. And another thing that we do is we use the hero analogy, right? So if you want to have leadership, we'll go with that one. Who evokes leadership, do you think, out there, celebrity wise, or somebody that has that value that you want? And emulate that, put that person up on a wall, right? And so if I were thinking leadership, I think somebody like Jack Welch, right? And I would put a picture of Jack Welch up there, and every time I saw him, I would think of this charismatic, driven, people will follow him anywhere leader.
That's great. That's great. And, again, our job and our responsibility is to go deep inside, to listen, and then to take those nuggets and make them actionable in incremental ways. It's not the big, broad sweeping brushstroke that makes the difference at the end of the day. It can, if that's really your destiny, it might be, but it's really what I see with people is the small incremental steps we take in the direction of what our deeper self is longing to express that adds up over time and gives us access to it, creates a new feedback loop wherein that part of ourself starts to trust us and say, oh, she listened to the idea. She actually, I told her we want to be more creative, and she started writing more creative posts on Instagram, or she started doing morning pages. She, got more creative with the meals she's making. If I take it seriously and make it actionable, I do something about it with the present tense resources, time, energy, money, I do something. That's when, I've seen it again and again with clients. And again, I do this through shadow work with people. I try to identify not only just the unconscious instincts in general, but especially the ones that we've rejected and disowned. That's what shadow work really is. And there's so much potency there. Those are particular little complexes that live in our subconscious minds that have a tremendous amount of stored energy. And when we start to unearth, wow, what have I been denying and avoiding and rejecting because I'm afraid of it? I don't want to unpack that. I don't want to feel those things. I'm afraid that I'm to this, to that, or to the other. And we start to bring it into the light of consciousness, proactively invite it, accept it, receive it, develop a process around making it feel more invited and more safe. It will start to reveal a tremendous amount of information. We got hung up at certain junctures in our lives and had to push certain parts of ourselves underground.
Right.
When we bring them back into consciousness, they have so much insight and intelligence to bear. Yeah.
People spend their whole life operating under those systems, not knowing where or why they're coming through, right? Tony Robbins has made a career out of pulling those out of people, like a magician. But you're saying that you can, through a more gentle process, get in there and get some information and get some alliance from them, right? Like, I don't know if you know Aubrey Marcus, but I listened to him on his podcast, and Aubrey Marcus talks about it wasn't until he made friends with his ego that he could actually understand how to control it. And that's a similar concept. He had to go down and figure out what was holding him back in his life. And, it was ego driven. And so I understand that process. That's amazing. You're bringing up a lot of content here, and there's a lot for us to dissect. I think we're going to have our own podcast for sure on these topics. But one of the things I want to leave the folks with here are some tools. So you're talking about finding the time to go in and explore who and what it is that you really want, and listening. And you brought up journaling. That's a great tool. What else? Would meditation count here? Would mindfulness walking, or having some things that you do where you're constantly trying to tune out from other things to get quiet and listen?
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the most powerful practices and tools that we can use right now is, and is really called for in a really heightened way, is a gratitude practice. And what I mean by that is really on a daily basis, calling your attention to, focusing on, and bringing into your awareness all of the ways that you are being supplied and resourced and taken care of, because we're really present to the scary things that are happening right now. But what we're less tuned into is every second of every day we are being supplied. And so when we use our, minds and our attention to tune into those, to focus on them, the fact that the sun is shining and I didn't put it in the sky, and because the sun is shining, the plants can do their thing and I can breathe, and then I have these lungs that are working. It can be anything. I encourage people to widen their aperture every time they do this exercise. For me, it's always the scent of jasmine. All I need to do is invoke the scent of jasmine, and I can really feel. The point of I think an effective gratitude practice is for it to go beyond thought. It's not just a list of, a mental list of the things that are being given to us and the ways we're being supported. It's the feeling we get from really comprehending that we're in a universe that takes care of us, that's actually on our side in so many ways. There's equal evidence, probably more evidence of that being the case right now in this moment. Me and you having this connection, getting to have a heartfelt connection. I'm grateful for that. That fills me with a kind of optimism and faith in the grand scheme of things. And if I can shift that from a thought and feel in my heart how powerful and potent that is. And it's up to us, again, every day to elicit that state inside of us of presence. It's not, we have a negativity bias. If we don't fight that tendency, we're going to focus on what could go wrong and what is going wrong. So in the face of that, we need to actively drag our attention away from that and remember the scent of jasmine, or what it feels like to surf on a wave, all of that, and feel it in our beings as a sensation so that we can experience a caring universe that has this kind of intelligence and even a plan for all of us in this time right now, even if that plan includes some loss.
And the gratitude list has been referenced in every one of the conversations we've had on this podcast. It's how I start my day. It's how most of my friends start their day. We journal a gratitude list. On Fridays, a large segment of my group of friends, I think there's somewhere in the neighborhood of 70 or 80 that send gratitude lists via text. So these long text strings go around with everybody's lengthy gratitude lists on it. And it's amazing the power of when you give yours, it's powerful to yourself, but then to read everybody else's and start to feel all the other things that are out there that are good in the world is important. It's incredible. And it's like a muscle. I see people that just start their first week was like 5 or 6, right?
Yeah.
And they're rough ones. They're like, I'm grateful for coffee or something like that. Then a couple weeks later, you've got like, I'm grateful for my dog's wagging tail, right, when it sees me. And these are the ones that get deeper, and you start to feel it. People grow in their gratitude over time, and it's important. It's a super awesome way to view the world. The other way is plug into TV, plug into social media, and let that drive you, and you're going to drive yourself right into the therapist chair, right?
Yeah. Totally. I mean, one other thing, Mike, I don't know if there's time for me to just add one other tool, that I think is really valuable is to consciously and proactively practice letting go in a graceful way. Practice loss. I work with a tool called loss processing, and it's a tool that helps you let go and, reckon with loss in a way that, kind of allows you to unhook and detach from the things that, again, we're losing so much right now on so many levels. And it helps us practice a graceful way of relinquishing control, relinquishing attachment. And then, in this particular tool, when you do that, you make the decision to let go of the thing that you're really, really missing and longing for that made the world perfect before. When you make the decision, you see yourself making the decision to let go, and the energy of that decision, the force of that decision causes you to free fall backward into space. And then you find yourself falling into the surface of the sun, and you feel yourself enveloped in this incredibly warm, infinite, source of light and energy and supply. And then you recognize and acknowledge that that's really the only thing we're ever going to possess anyway, is that infinite flow of energy through us, around us. And we can, again, be the source of that in our lives.
And we have it. We can tap right into it.
Totally. We are so lucky in that regard.
Yeah. Most people don't know that. Most people think that that's only available to yogis and gurus and people like that. But that's or people that are religious, right? Holy people, and that's not true. It's in every one of us.
Oh, everybody has the sun inside, and I think a really valuable, powerful addition to that I have clients do often is look around when you feel yourself. You really, all the tools work based on being able to feel, transform, transmute a thought into a sensation. Once you've really connected with the power and potency of the sun, you can look around and see that there are really hundreds of suns, and everybody you love is on their own sun. And especially with people who we have maybe some kind of codependent patterns with, where we take responsibility for their well-being in ways that are too enmeshed, or people we don't want to let down, or we feel any kind of weirdness with. I think it's really powerful and potent to see them on their own sun and really acknowledge that they have everything they need. I'm not in charge of their sun, nor could I ever be their sun. Their sun, they have their own source. Everyone is supplied and absolutely has the same opportunity truly to stare into the void, taking it back to the beginning and experience that sun emerging through them, which will happen if you do these practices, regularly enough.
That's great. What great advice you gave us today. There's a lot to unpack in that. And I think I'm going to have to actually go back and listen to this conversation and write a few things here. The one last plug I want to make is the book, The Tools, right? So it's one of my favorite, Dave Rhoads' most quoted books. And you're a practitioner of that program. So for those that don't know the book, there's 5 tools laid out in that book, and then a long conversations around them about things in life. But in general, it's a life in forward motion, right? It's how to keep the momentum of growth going for you, and how to keep in the forward motion versus any kind of regression in your life. And so, any thoughts around that program, that process here?
I mean, I should say, Mike, I'm incredibly excited, honored and privileged that I get to work directly with Barry and Phil, who are the co-authors of The Tools and then its sequel, Coming Alive. I think they're 2 really, really brilliant, innovative psychotherapists. And, they happen to work with this incredibly elite population of, Hollywood luminaries. And that's kind of their claim to fame. They've been given a lot of attention for that. But part of the reason they work with the most powerful people in, the town of Los Angeles is their technology works. They take metaphysical, very broad, big, high concept ideas, and they translate them into actionable tools, which give us access to these forces, these invisible forces that operate, inside of us, internally and externally, in this world that we live in. And they just give you these hacks for how to, again, like you said, use these tools so that you are staying in forward motion. Otherwise, we tend to get in our own way and we kind of stop and get stuck or go backwards. Like you said, Barry and Phil are, brilliant, and I have had and have the great opportunity to work with them. And somehow I've convinced them to be doing some free webinars during this time. So we have a webinar coming up on the 18th of April. You can find the information and you can sign up on the website is, wait for it, here it comes, thetoolsbook.com. So thetoolsbook.com, and on the tab that says events, you'll see, and I think we're going to do them every 2 weeks-ish. We did one, Barry and I did one last weekend for the 92nd Street Y in New York, and it was just unbelievable. There was, getting access to Barry and having him work directly on Zoom, in this webinar format with people was just really transformative for everyone who was, even if your question didn't get answered, because, we can only take so many questions, but there's, the themes are so universal and you learn. And even, I think we were so surprised that everybody, you could watch the stream in the chat of, people who are learning almost by osmosis, witnessing the vulnerable, authentic sharing of other people. It was like, we were just lit up. It was really powerful. So we're going to continue to do this. I can't speak highly enough about them. There's so many resources on that website. And you'll have access. They like to, Barry always jokes, they're incredibly expensive shrinks, and we all have access to them for free.
Right. That's right. Thetoolsbook.com, right?
Yes. Yep.
And so your website is kristansargent.com, right? Kristan with a T-A-N. Sargent.com. And they can find more information on you there. And I'll put some notes in the show notes here. But super excited about our future podcast, because there's no doubt we've got enough content to cover. I've got some questions for you regarding manifesting and finding those actual soul-filling goals, if you will. I'm great at tackling a goal if I get it. I get hung up on what the actual goal should be, right?
That's gonna be what we'll do in our podcast, if you'll go there with me.
Yes.
Is do some shadow work.
Yes, that sounds great. I'd love to do some live, and we'll share it with the folks.
Yeah,
That'd be awesome.
The shadow has all the answers to that question. Your shadow has the answers.
I can't wait to dig in. Kristan, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Be well, and look forward to catching you on the backside of this quarantine.
Sounds great. Thank you so much for having me, and stay well.
Hey, Mike here. Hope you liked this boardroom session. Please check back to our future sessions, as we're recording a new one every month. If you want to reach out, look for me on LinkedIn or send me a note at mike@sidepath.com. That's Mike at sidepath.com.